All right, looking back on my time at dental school, it was easily the most stressful part of my entire life. That's including as a practicing dentist too. We're talking the sleepless nights, the emotional roller coasters, the physical exhaustion of just being in lab all day, all night. You know, it's something that we all go through as dentists. And in this video today, I want to open up about the challenges I faced in dental school and the current problems that you may be facing that nobody else who's not in dentistry really understands. And after watching this video, I hope you realize that your struggles aren't that unique and we can absolutely get through this together. So let's get this therapy session on the road on how you can survive dental school and make it to the end to become a practicing dentist. All right, let's be honest here. The pressure of dental school is at an insane level, and a lot of that comes down to the cost. Yeah, we're talking about a $400,000 plus investment in your education, and that alone makes you feel like every second you're not learning is almost like a waste of time. With that much money down, you'll start to wonder if you'll ever see your return on investment. Like if you average that amount of money per 8 hours of education that you'll be at school for 4 years, that's like $50 an hour. That's a lot of money for education. And after doing a master's, I thought I can handle a lot of the workload, but the majority of work in my D1 and D2 year, the volume was just overwhelming for me. Like there's literally thousands of slides to memorize. They would test you on such small details on the slides. If you missed it, oops, sorry. You lose points in your exam. And then those clinical exams are not just testing your skills at drilling, but it's also testing how fast you can be and how much you can work under pressure, because most of them are timed. Like, yeah, I realized I can do a pretty decent filling, but now timing me in 1 hour and like make it perfect, and then next week, let's do 2 fillings in the same amount of time. I was like, damn, this is really tricky. It's getting very hard. And at times it felt impossible. Like I remember being in the clinic and we'd all be working till like midnight because the practical was the next day. You just feel like the anxiety in the room where everybody's just scrapping along, trying to get by. And then during the exams, I went to NYU for dental school. So these drilling exams were in this massive room for like 100 kids. And Dr. Buckland, if you've ever heard of him, he's like this drill sergeant type professor. And when it starts, you hear a big like siren go off and it's like bang! People dropping instruments, people crashing into adjacent teeth, people getting up to get last minute supplies, and people trying to polish their preps as smooth as possible to remove all the imperfections. And then you're worried about like breaking into the pulp or going too far. Then you'd be worrying about drilling too much, and then, oh, I don't want to drill too much. It's gonna widen the prep, and endless possibilities on how you can fail a dental school practical. There would be so many little tricks we would do to gain a few extra points here and there. Like I remember when my preps were just atrocious, I would rub some rubbing alcohol on it, make it look nice and shiny, and then like the super old professor, like who couldn't really see anything anyways, was like, just saw like a nice glossy prep and just like give me a nice A for that. Like, I'm not proud of these little tricks, but like these are the things we had to do as dental students to kind of get by, no matter how desperate we were. All to say that a lot of these exams took a big mental toll on me. And what I've come to realize is that dental school is designed to break you down, but it will rebuild you into something stronger. Like for example, let's take the plastic type-it-on teeth that we drill on. It's much harder to drill on type-it-on teeth than it is real teeth. Like you'll spend hours drilling and prepping these fake teeth. They don't even behave like real enamel or dentin. You don't get that tactile feel of any of this stuff when a plastic tooth is prepped incorrectly. And then come exam time, you're graded on the tiniest details. You'll hear things like, oh, open contact, fail. You have an open margin somewhere on the prep, fail. It might have looked great to you, but a millimeter in any direction, anywhere in the prep can fail you. Sometimes it feels like no matter how hard you try, it's just not good enough. It felt like the system was designed to make me feel inadequate, and it was almost like a mental game to learn how to navigate this kind of struggle. Like I saw some of my most brilliant classmates who've never failed a test in their life just flat out bomb exams and practicals because many times it's subjective, it's nitpicky. This is how dentistry works. And on the topic of my classmates, you will quickly realize how intense the competition actually is. Like in my school, there was like 5,000 people who apply for literally about like 300 seats. NYU gets a bad rep a lot of times, but there are very smart, very deserving kids who go to that school, especially how competitive it can get at times. So right from the start, I realized everybody's trying to prove that they deserve to be there, and they do. And it doesn't stop once you get accepted. As you go through school, it only gets tougher and tougher. And what makes all this worse is that you're surrounded by people who have always been at the top of their class. And suddenly you may have been doing great your whole life, because no matter how hard you try, there will always be someone who seems to just do a little better than you. Like, I remember hearing stories about my classmates who were like, she crushes every single exam, because hearing that stuff makes you question your own abilities and if you deserve to be there. So that comparison game is very real in dental school. Try not to compare yourself to others, because I noticed those were the moments where I felt the saddest and the most inadequate. Once I learned to just compare myself to the version of myself yesterday, I felt a little better inside and I became more at peace. And during dental school, I kind of had a spiritual awakening per se. I started realizing that as I tried to become more present and focus on today and now as opposed to tomorrow and yesterday, a lot of my stress started to dissipate. This unique mindset shift didn't make my problems go away by any means, but it did remove their power to overwhelm me, which was really holding me up a lot of the way, especially academically. For me, I was able to approach things one step at a time, and I was able to celebrate very small victories, like, oh, I did well on a quiz, good job. Like, be grateful that I'm able to take a dental school exam, or, practicing gratitude. I am grateful to be a dental student, chasing my dreams in a very cool, safe career that's able to help people. We all share a internal dialogue with ourselves, and when I was able to switch it into a positive, more grateful, appreciative dialogue inside my own head, things became easier, and it took me a lot of pain and sacrifice in dental school to realize that. I was going through like a severe depression and anxiety type of moment in my life where I felt like nothing was working for me, and there were really dark times. I felt completely disconnected from everything. So then I tried to dive within and focus more on my breathing. This was the same moment in my life where one of my classmates actually committed suicide. And it was hard for everybody involved. Like, we're all in school, we're all struggling, and then you find a classmate in a bathtub dead overnight. And it was just a real wake-up call for all of us. Like, wow, this is very real. Like, we're all going through this right now. We should be taking care of each other, being present, staying in the moment. And I remember when I started dental school, I had like this burning desire to specialize, because I thought specialties were like the cool thing to do. I think most kids coming to school think like specialty is like the dopest thing alive, which I disagree with now wholeheartedly. If you come into school with the idea that you're going to specialize, it puts a whole nother level of pressure on everything you're doing. And then there was this one time where I was like dangerously close to failing a practical, and I was about to fail the class. Like, the fear of failing a class was catastrophic to anybody at NYU Dental, because a bad grade here, a bad day there, you have the potential of failing an entire year and repeating the whole year again and paying another $100K in tuition. I don't know why that girl in my class committed suicide. There was suspicion of her potentially failing for the year and having to repeat. Some of these classes that people get left back for at my school were one class, one exam, making 100% of the grade. Can you imagine the stakes at hand and the amount of anxiety that a dental student like myself? And then it felt like sometimes professors were intentionally misleading the students on the exams. Like, with so many students, I understand there needs to be a differentiator between people. It can't just be an easy exam, everybody gets A's, and then there's no way to separate anybody. It got so bad that we ended up battling with these professors, fighting over exam questions that we felt were unfair. And sometimes we'd come back, oh, we got 7 questions back out of 30, because the professor was like, all right, fair enough, like those questions were unfair. Bro, that's a huge amount of questions on a 30-question exam. Like, we had a whole council that would like argue to death for any question we can get, because these questions on these exams meant the difference between some people passing and some people failing. It can make or break your grade. And I tried to find different ways to handle all of that. Working out became a huge coping mechanism for me. Running helped me a lot, and it gave me a break from the constant grind. If you're in dental school right now, find your people. Build those friendships, because you're gonna need them. That times are gonna get much tougher as the days go by. Not only will you feel all the mental anxiety and all that stress, you're gonna start to even feel the physical toll of what dental school actually feels like. Okay, you may never have to do this, but imagine spending like 8 hours staring down at a 10mm object through telescopes on your face, looking at things upside down through a mirror with water splashing. It sounds ridiculous when you explain it to anybody outside of dentistry, but that's literally what you're gonna be doing when you go to work. Your hands and feet are all moving simultaneously, and it's like you're a Pinocchio being operated by a Geppetto. And at this point in your career, your ergonomics are complete shit. So you're gonna feel that pain. Like, get your loops early. I used to even have like one of those back and neck braces to keep you upright more often, because you have to train your body to prevent it from slacking and slouching and cheating without using mirrors. Like, even though I've been working out and taking care of my body my whole life, immediately within the first 2 years of dental school, I started to feel that pain in my neck and my back, and it's pretty significant. And I've even seen some of my friends who have weaker cores and back muscles, they felt that stiffness real fast. I tweaked my neck at work a couple weeks ago. Now, every time I look down at work, I feel it. The pain is only getting worse over time. Like, it may just turn into something chronic. And I'm sure you've seen your older dental school professors with the white hair and the hunchback. Where did they all get that from? Like, I'm young, I'm healthy, but I'm worried that this job can really put me in a physical predicament where I may not be able to turn my head ever again, or I may not be able to look down properly without feeling strain in my neck. And the late nights and sleepless days didn't help either, because I wasn't able to recover. Then my diet went to shit. I was eating Uber Eats all the time and junk food. All of this starts to accumulate over time and all adds to the stress that is dental school. I made some lifestyle changes, like I started meal prepping my food. That way I was able to eat at the library or eat very late at night when I was studying. Supplementing with vitamins, collagen peptides, multivitamins, vitamin D supplements. Vitamin D helps a lot too. You may feel sad at times because you're always indoors studying all day. You're not getting enough sunlight. A few of these supplement changes, diet changes, really make a big difference over time. But I tried to stay focused during exam time. I would have to learn how to say no to hang out with friends. Then I started to develop this mentality of like, oh, if you're not studying every day, like, you're falling behind. Made me feel even more lonely and depressed over time. I think even if you prefer studying alone like I do, it's important to connect with your classmates and reach out. Just like basic human interaction during a really strenuous process like dental school can go a long way. For me, towards the later years, I started joining a study group. I started partaking in extracurricular activities like a soccer league, and I was even kind of relying on my friends and family just to talk about my feelings. Now let's talk about effective studying strategies, because one of the biggest stressors in dental school is that you simply don't know how to study for that amount of material. Or at least I wasn't prepared to handle this much material. Like, some kids in my class made it look easy. That wasn't me. Because let's face it, the bookwork and the amount of knowledge required to consume in such a short amount of time is a completely different beast than what you may have been exposed to in undergrad. They say it's like drinking water out of a fire hydrant. No, it's like swimming in a tsunami without arms and legs. You need to treat it like a full-time job and even put in some overtime hours. And the ironic thing is that most people never worked a really hard full-time job like being a dentist before. Like, I sure as hell didn't, and I learned the hard way. Like, I was living in Manhattan during school. Can you imagine the amount of lit shit that I was being asked to go to every weekend? It meant putting in consistent hours every day, managing your schedule, and avoiding distractions in a world where everything is designed to distract you. All right, let's go over some studying tips. First, please find some old study resources from previous years. The hard part is finding them, but if you can, it'll help you more than you think, because those questions don't really change over time. Like, if I'm a 50-year-old professor teaching dental students, I'm not gonna go out of my way and spend 15 hours a week or whatever to try to create new tricky questions for my dental students. Like, no, there's high yield topics. They come up every year. Find the patterns in the exams, and you know what will show up on your exam. Like, the more practice exams you do, the better off you'll be. And this applies to practical exams as well. Time yourself with less time than you'll have during the exam. Shit's gonna go wrong. It always does. Like, if you can do the task in a faster time limit, you'll be better prepared under pressure when the stress is on the line, and you'll be able to maneuver better. When you're in class, pay attention to your professors and what they emphasize in lecture, because most professors will pretty much tell you what's on the exam by emphasizing certain things. And also try to learn with different resources, like listen to the lectures, write notes down, watch YouTube videos, Speak with friends in study groups. The more ways that you can internalize this information, I think the better it sticks. And at least that's my perspective. And lastly, try to make the process of studying as fun as possible. Like, I would reward myself for a really long day of studying, allow myself to go out on the weekends if I had a very productive week. Studying with friends really helps. I remember a lot of times we would make these really corny mnemonics that you never forget. So like, we'd hear it, we'd make the joke with each other, and then it show up on the exam, and then we get to laugh about it after, like, you remember that came up? Studying with other people will highlight the inefficiencies in your own knowledge, and that's really important. Because I remember when I studied by myself, I didn't talk to anybody for any exam. I would show up, take the exam, I would completely miss things on the exam, and then my whole group of friends were studying together. They're like, oh yeah, we knew that. We knew that was gonna show up. So yes, dental school is a marathon and not a sprint. You're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. And success doesn't mean that you're hitting an A or 100 on every single practical and exam. Some of the best dentists, some of the most successful dentists I know in my class right now were terrible in dental school. You've got to find your own secret recipe that works for you. Whether that's focusing on the present day, finding your own balance with your mental and physical health, or building that solid support system with your own friends or your own family. At the end of the day, dental school isn't about just becoming a dentist. You'll learn as you get to the finish line. It's about growing as a person. So don't take anything too seriously. Just stay focused, take care of yourself, and remember, you got this.